The mahogany table stretched before me like a coffin, its polished surface reflecting the cold fluorescent lights of the boardroom. 43 floors above the city streets, I sat surrounded by men in $1,000 suits who'd been circling my empire like vultures for months. Today, they'd finally gotten their feast. My name is David Morrison, and 12 hours ago, I was worth $200 million. Now, the pen trembling in my hand, was about to sign away everything I'd built over 25 years. Every late night, every sacrifice, every dream I'd turned into reality. Gone. The contract before me was thick as a phone book, but I knew what it meant without reading another word. Total liquidation. My tech company, my real estate holdings, my investments, all of it would be sold to cover debts I never saw coming. Debts that appeared overnight like some kind of financial plague. "Just sign here, Mr. Morrison," said Patterson, my former business partner, his voice dripping with false sympathy. He pointed to a line marked with yellow tape, as if I were too broken to find it myself. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months ago, the same man had been begging me for a loan to save his failing restaurant chain. I could hear the whispers around the table. Jenkins from the bank, barely containing his satisfaction. Sarah from accounting, who'd been feeding information to my competitors for who knows how long. And then there was Martinez, my lawyer, or should I say, my former lawyer, who'd somehow forgotten to mention the fine print that led to this moment. The air in that room felt thick, suffocating. You know that feeling when you're drowning? When the water's closing over your head, and you realize you've been fighting a current too strong for any one person. That's where I was. 25 years of building, creating, employing hundreds of people, and it all came down to my signature on a piece of paper. I thought about my daughter Emma, starting college next month. About my ex-wife Rebecca, who'd been right when she said success without integrity was just another form of failure. About the employees who trusted me, who had families to feed, who believed in the vision we'd all built together. The pen felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. That's when I heard the soft squeak of rubber soles on marble flooring. The sound was so out of place in this temple of corporate warfare that it made everyone turn. Through the glass doors came Miguel, the night janitor, 60-something, with weather hands and kind eyes that had seen everything these walls had to offer. Security moved to intercept him, but he raised his hand. "Disculpe, yours. I just need one moment with Mr. Morrison. This is highly irregular," Patterson snapped. "We're in the middle of—" "It's fine," I said, surprised at myself. What did I have to lose at this point? Miguel approached my chair with the quiet dignity of a man who'd spent decades invisible in plain sight. He leaned down, close enough that I could smell the industrial soap on his uniform, and whispered 6 words that stopped my world. "They moved the money last Tuesday." I froze. The pen slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the contract. Around the table, confused murmurs started, but they sounded miles away. My heart hammered against my ribs as Miguel straightened up, gave me the slightest nod, and walked back toward the door. "Mr. Morrison?" Patterson's voice cut through my shock. "Is everything all right?" I stared at the contract, but the words had become meaningless symbols. Last Tuesday, the same day my accountant had called in sick, the same day the wire transfers had mysteriously failed, the same day that $30 million had vanished from accounts that should have been untouchable. How could a janitor, a man who emptied wastebaskets and mopped floors, know about money movements that my own financial team couldn't explain? The room waited in silence. 12 pairs of eyes watched me like spectators at an execution, waiting for me to pick up that pen and seal my fate. But something had shifted. That spark Miguel had ignited was growing into something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Or maybe it was just the first taste of revenge. Before I reveal what happened next, please take a moment to subscribe. These videos take me dozens of hours to research, write, and narrate. Your support keeps stories like this alive. I pushed back on the table and stood up. The contract remained unsigned. "Gentlemen," I said, my voice steadier than it had been in weeks, "I think we need to postpone this meeting." The eruption of protest that followed could have shattered glass. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I was the one walking toward the door. And as I did, one question burned in my mind like a brand. What else did Miguel know that could change everything? The elevator ride to ground floor felt like descending into purgatory. Each floor that passed gave me more time to second-guess myself. Had I just thrown away my last chance at salvation because of 6 words from a stranger? The vultures upstairs were probably already dividing my assets among themselves, celebrating my moment of weakness. But those words kept echoing. They moved the money last Tuesday. The lobby was nearly empty, just a security guard reading his newspaper and the soft hum of after-hours cleaning equipment somewhere in the distance. I found myself following the sound, my leather shoes clicking against the polished granite with each step. I discovered her in the executive wing, methodically wiping down the same conference tables where million-dollar deals were struck every day. Up close, I could see the intelligence in her eyes that I'd missed all these years. This wasn't just someone going through the motions. She cleaned with purpose, precision, like someone who understood that details mattered. "Anna," I said, reading the name tag pinned to her blue uniform. "That's your name, right?" She didn't look up immediately, just continued her work. "See, Mr. Morrison. Anna Valdez." Her accent was subtle, shaped by decades in this country. When she finally met my gaze, I saw something I hadn't expected: concern. "You didn't sign." It wasn't a question. "You said they moved the money," I pressed, glancing around to make sure we were alone. "What money? Who moved it?" Anna set down her cloth and studied me for a long moment. "You really want to know? Or are you just looking for someone to blame?" The question stung, because part of me wondered if she was right. Maybe I was just a desperate man grasping at conspiracy theories, rather than accepting that I'd failed. My entire life just imploded upstairs. I said, "If you know something, I need to hear it." She walked to the window, overlooking the city. From this angle, the lights below looked like scattered diamonds, each one representing someone's life, someone's dreams. "I've been cleaning these offices for 15 years, she said quietly. "You learn things when people forget you exist." "What kind of things?" Anna turned back to me. "Do you know what your business partner, Mr. Patterson, was doing last Tuesday at 10:30 p.m.? I shook my head. He was in his office with 2 men I'd never seen before. Expensive suits, briefcases, the kind of people who don't usually visit at night. She moved closer, lowering her voice. I was cleaning the hallway outside. They left his door cracked. Mr. Patterson was very angry. He kept saying Morrison's getting suspicious, and we need to accelerate the timeline. She paused, watching my reaction carefully. Then one of the men said something about offshore transfers being complete and how the forensic trail would lead nowhere. The words hit me like physical blows. Patterson, the man I'd known since business school, who'd been best man at my wedding, had been discussing my destruction like it was just another transaction. "There's more," Anna continued. "Your lawyer, Mr. Martinez, called while they were there." I heard Patterson put him on speaker. "Martinez said the bankruptcy paperwork was ready and that you'd sign it today without question because you trusted him." I leaned against the wall, feeling sick. They planned this. All of it. The missing contracts from the Singapore deal. The sudden audit that froze your assets. The bank loans that got called in early. Anna's voice was steady, matter-of-fact. "It wasn't bad luck, Mr. Morrison. It was coordination." Everything clicked into place with horrible clarity. The series of unfortunate events that had destroyed my company wasn't random. It was a carefully orchestrated takedown by people I considered family. "Why?" I asked, though I wasn't sure if I was asking Anna or the universe. "Why would they do this?" "Money makes people do terrible things," she said simply. "But I think it's more than that." I heard them mention someone else, someone they called the client. They were working for somebody. A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just about Patterson's greed or Martinez's betrayal. Someone else was pulling the strings, someone with enough power and patience to orchestrate this level of destruction. "Who?" I demanded. Anna shook her head. "I don't know, but whoever it is, they know you very well. They predicted exactly how you'd react to every move." The hallway suddenly felt too narrow, too exposed. Someone who knew me intimately enough to predict my responses. The list of possibilities was terrifyingly short. "Anna," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "why are you telling me this? You could lose everything." She was quiet for a moment, her gaze distant. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of years of struggle. "My son Diego is graduating college next month. Computer science. He was supposed to start working for your company in September." My chest tightened. "Diego," I remembered approving his internship application, remember being impressed by his grades, his drive. "Your scholarship program paid for his last 2 years of school," Anna continued. "First person in my family to graduate college. When your company falls, kids like Diego don't get chances like that anymore." The responsibility hit me like a physical weight. It wasn't just about my money or my pride anymore. It was about Anna's son, about the 300 employees who trusted me with their livelihoods, about the families depending on what we'd built together. "What they're doing," I said slowly, "it's not just destroying me. It's destroying everyone who works there." "See," Anna nodded. "That's why I can't stay quiet." I looked at this woman, really looked at her for the first time. She wore a simple uniform and pushed a cart full of cleaning supplies, but she had more integrity than anyone who'd sat around that boardroom table. She was risking her job, possibly her safety, for people she'd never met. "If what you're saying is true," I said carefully, "I'd need proof, real evidence." Anna reached into her cart and pulled out a small notebook, its pages filled with neat handwriting. "Times, dates, conversations. I write down everything I hear." She flipped through pages of careful observations. Names, phone calls, meetings that had happened when the offices were supposed to be empty. It was like reading the secret history of my own destruction. "This is incredible," I whispered, scanning her notes. "But it's not enough for the authorities. I'd need documents, recordings, something concrete." "I clean their computers," she said quietly. "Sometimes they forget to log out of their email accounts." The implication hung in the air between us. She wasn't just offering to be a witness. She was offering to help me gather the evidence I needed, but it would mean asking her to risk everything, to break laws, to put herself in danger. Standing there in that empty hallway, I faced the most important decision of my life. Trust the people who betrayed me and sign away everything I had built, or trust a woman I barely knew and fight back against forces I didn't fully understand. Every rational instinct told me to walk away. And it could be lying. She could be working for my enemies. She could be setting me up for an even bigger fall. The smart play was to cut my losses, sign the contract, and try to rebuild from nothing. But then I thought about Diego, about to start his career in the ashes of my company. About Emma, who'd grown up believing her father was someone who never gave up. About the employees who put their faith in me to protect what we'd built together. "Anna," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my head, "if I said yes to this, there's no going back. They'll come after both of us." She met my gaze without flinching. "Mr. Morrison, I've been invisible my whole life, but that doesn't mean I don't see everything." In that moment, looking at the courage in her eyes, I made my choice. I was going to trust the janitor over the board of directors. I was going to bet everything on a woman who cleaned floors and noticed things that millionaires missed. What would you do in David's shoes? Trust a janitor or sign the contract anyway? For me, the answer was clear. I'd spent my career trusting all the wrong people. It was time to trust someone who had nothing to gain from my destruction and everything to lose by helping me. "When do we start?" I asked. Anna's smile was small but fierce. "Mr. Patterson works late every Thursday. Tomorrow night." As I walked back to the elevator, Anna's notebook tucked inside my jacket, I realized that my empire might be crumbling, but my real education was just beginning. I was about to learn the difference between the people who smile to your face and the ones who tell you the truth when everything's falling apart. The war for my life's work was far from over. It was just getting started. The next morning, I sat in my home office staring at financial reports that had once been as familiar to me as my own heartbeat. Now, every number looked suspicious. Every signature seemed forged. Anna's notebook lay open beside my laptop, her careful handwriting a constant reminder that nothing was what it seemed. I'd barely slept. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Patterson's face when he'd urged me to sign that contract. The false sympathy, the practiced concern. How long had he been planning this? My coffee had gone cold hours ago, but I couldn't stop digging. The Singapore contract that had mysteriously vanished. I pulled up the digital copies. There, buried in the metadata, was something that made my blood run cold. The file had been accessed and modified 3 days after it supposedly disappeared. Modified by someone with administrator privileges. Someone inside my own company. I cross-referenced a timestamp with our security logs. The access had occurred at 2:47 a.m. on a Saturday. Who works at that hour? There it was. Leandro Vega, my business partner, my friend for 12 years. I leaned back in my chair, feeling like the floor had dropped away beneath me. Leandro, who'd stood beside me when we'd first pitched our company to investors. Leandro, who'd celebrated with me when we'd landed our first major contract. Leandro, who knew every aspect of our business because I trusted him completely. The phone rang, making me jump. Leandro's name flashed on the screen. David, Hamano, how are you holding up? His voice carried that same warmth it always had. If I hadn't been looking at proof of his betrayal, I would never have suspected anything. I've been better, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Actually, I was just going through some old files. The Singapore contract. Do you remember when exactly it went missing? A pause. Just half a second too long. Ah, man, that whole situation was such a mess. I think it was Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. The servers were acting up that week, remember? I was looking right at the access log. Saturday, 2:47 a.m. He was lying to my face. Right, I said, the servers. Listen, I need to ask you something. That night we lost a contract, were you in the office at all? Even briefly? Another pause. No. I was home with Maria and the kids. Why? The lie hit me like a physical blow. I'd considered this man family. His children call me Uncle David. I'd been at his wedding, held his newborn son, shared dreams about growing old and watching our companies change the world. Just trying to piece together the timeline. I said, for the lawyers. Of course. Hey, listen, I've been thinking about what happened yesterday. Maybe signing that contract isn't the worst thing. You can start over, you know? Sometimes a clean slate is exactly what we need. Start over. At 52, with nothing but debt and betrayal to show for 25 years of work. The casual way he suggested it made my stomach turn. Maybe you're right. I lied. I'll think about it. After I hung up, I sat in silence for several minutes. If Leandro was involved, how deep did this go? Who else could I trust? I opened my email and started searching for communication patterns. Financial transfers, contract modifications, meeting schedules, anything that might reveal the scope of the conspiracy. What I found made me sick. Email threads between Leandro and Martinez that I'd never been copied on. Discussions about managing David's reaction and maintaining his trust during the transition. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer, and I'd been completely oblivious. One email from 6 weeks ago stopped me cold. S thinks we're moving too fast. She says David's getting suspicious about the asset restructuring. Maybe we should delay another quarter? L, absolutely not. The timeline is set. S needs to keep him distracted, not second-guess the plan. The client wants this wrapped up by month end. M, S. There was only one person in my life whose name started with S and who had access to information about my business dealings. Sophia, my ex-girlfriend, the woman I dated for 3 years, who'd left me 8 months ago because she said I cared more about my company than our relationship. The woman who still had keys to my house, who still knew my passwords, who I confided in about every major business decision. I felt physically ill. Sophia had left me right around the time my financial troubles had started. The timing I'd attributed to coincidence suddenly seemed calculated. She'd left before the house of cards began falling, positioning herself as a supportive ex who was just worried about me. My hands were shaking as I pulled up her contact information. We'd texted just 2 days ago. her reaching out to see how I was handling the stress, offering to meet for coffee if I needed someone to talk to. Before I could second-guess myself, I called her. "David." Her voice was soft, concerned. "How are you doing?" "I've been so worried." "I'm processing everything," I said. "Actually, I was hoping we could meet. I could use a friend right now." "Of course. How about that coffee place downtown? The one we used to go to? Cafe Luna, where we'd had our first date, where she'd told me she loved me, where, apparently, she'd been planning my destruction. Perfect. Give me an hour? I'll be there." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the black computer screen. 3 people I'd trusted completely had been systematically destroying everything I'd built. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind? The drive downtown gave me time to think. I needed to be careful. If Sophia was part of this conspiracy, meeting with her was dangerous. But I needed to see her face when I asked the right questions. I needed to know how deep the betrayal went. Cafe Luna was exactly as I remembered. Warm lighting, exposed brick walls, the scent of fresh coffee and pastries. Sophia was already there, sitting at our old table by the window. She looked beautiful, as always. Auburn hair catching the afternoon light, wearing the blue sweater I bought her last Christmas. "David." She stood to hug me, and for a moment, muscle memory almost made me believe everything was normal. "You look tired." "I haven't been sleeping well," I admitted, settling into the chair across from her. "Everything's falling apart, Sophia. The company, my reputation, my future. I don't know how I got here." Her eyes filled with what looked like genuine concern. "I'm so sorry. I know how much that company meant to you." Meant, past tense, as if it were already gone. "The thing is," I said, watching her face carefully, "some inconsistencies are starting to emerge. Documents that don't match up, signatures that seem questionable. My lawyer thinks someone might have been manipulating things behind the scenes." A flicker of something crossed her features. Fear? Calculation? It was gone too quickly to be sure. "That's terrible," she said. "Who would do something like that?" "I don't know yet, but they'd have to be someone close to me. Someone who understood my business, my habits, my weaknesses." I leaned forward. Someone who could predict how I'd react to different situations. Sophia's coffee cup trembled slightly as she lifted it to her lips. "David, you're starting to sound paranoid. Maybe the stress is getting to you more than you realize." Paranoid, the same word Patterson had used. The same dismissive tone that suggested I was losing my grip on reality rather than uncovering the truth. "Maybe," I said, "but here's what's interesting. All these problems started right around the time you and I broke up. Coincidence?" "David," her voice carried a warning now. 8 months ago, you said I was too focused on work. You said I never made time for us. But looking back, you were always asking about business deals, always interested in the financial details. I thought you were trying to understand my world better." The mask was slipping now. I could see calculation in her eyes, the careful consideration of someone deciding how much truth to reveal. "You're imagining things," she said. "Am I?" "Because I found some interesting emails this morning. Communications between my business partner and my lawyer that referenced someone called S. Someone who was helping to monitor my reactions, my suspicions." I paused. Someone who was keeping me distracted while they dismantled everything I'd built. Sophia set down her coffee cup with trembling hands. For a long moment, we just stared at each other across the table where we'd once planned a future together. "How long?" I asked quietly. She looked away, focusing on something outside the window. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How long, Sophia?" 2 years. Her voice was barely audible. "Maybe longer." The confession hit me like a sledgehammer. 2 years. While I'd been falling in love with her, planning proposals I never got to make, imagining growing old together, she'd been systematically gathering intelligence to destroy me. "Why?" The word came out broken, desperate. "Money." She finally looked at me again, and I saw tears in her eyes. Real ones, I thought, though I could no longer trust my ability to read her. More money than I'd ever imagined. Enough to never worry about anything again. Who's paying you? She shook her head. I can't tell you that. They'll what? Kill you? Ruin you like they're ruining me. I leaned across the table. Sophia, I loved you. I wanted to marry you. How could you do this to me? Because you made it easy. The words exploded out of her, drawing stares from other customers. She lowered her voice, but the anger remained. You trusted everyone, David. You never questioned anything. You handed over passwords, shared confidential information, made yourself completely vulnerable. It was like you were begging to be betrayed. The cruelty of it stole my breath. She was blaming me for trusting the people I loved. So this is my fault? No. Yes. I don't know. She wiped her eyes with her napkin. I never wanted to hurt you. But the offer was too good, and you were always going to choose your business over me anyway. I never had the chance to choose, I said. You took that away from me. We sat in silence for several minutes, the weight of betrayal settling between us like a physical presence. Around us, people continued their normal conversations, their normal lives, unaware that mine was disintegrating in real time. The person who hired you, I said finally. Someone I know? Sophia hesitated, then nodded slowly. Someone close to me? Another nod. I ran through the possibilities in my mind. Family members, long-term friends, business associates who'd known me for years. Someone with enough resources to orchestrate this level of destruction, enough patience to plan it over years, enough hatred to want to see me completely ruined. Have you ever ignored red flags about someone close to you? Did it come back to hurt you? Sitting there across from Sophia, I realized I'd been ignoring red flags for years. Her sudden interest in my business affairs, the way she'd encouraged me to trust Leandro more completely, her convenient departure right before everything started falling apart. The signs had been there, but I'd been too much in love, too trusting, too naive to see them. Whoever it is, I said, they're not going to stop at destroying my company, are they? Sophia's silence was answer enough. I stood up, leaving money on the table for coffee I couldn't taste. For what it's worth, Sophia, I hope the money was worth it. Because you didn't just destroy my business. You destroyed any chance you had of becoming someone worthy of love. I walked away without looking back, but I heard her crying as I left. Outside, the city continued its rhythm, indifferent to my personal apocalypse. But something had changed inside me. The grief was still there, the betrayal still burned, but underneath it all was something new. Rage. Pure, focused rage at the people who'd systematically destroyed everything I'd built while pretending to care about me. They'd counted on my trust, my loyalty, my inability to see the worst in people I loved. They'd made a crucial mistake. They'd underestimated what I'd become when I finally stopped trusting and started fighting back. By Thursday evening, I'd uncovered enough evidence to fill a prosecutor's dreams. Shell companies, forged signatures, backdated documents. The paper trail of my destruction was meticulous and damning. But one question haunted me more than all the financial fraud combined. How did Anna know? I found her exactly where I expected, cleaning the executive floor at 11 p.m., moving through the offices with practiced efficiency. But now I watched her differently. The way she organized her supplies wasn't random. The way she approached each desk followed a specific pattern. She wasn't just cleaning. She was conducting surveillance. Anna, she turned from Martinez's desk, unsurprised to see me. Mr. Morrison, you came. I need answers. I stepped into the office and closed the door behind me. Real answers. Because what you told me 2 days ago has turned my world upside down, and I'm starting to think there's a lot more to Anna Valdez than meets the eye. She set down her cleaning supplies and faced me fully. In the dim office lighting, she looked different, more composed, less like someone who cleaned floors and more like someone who'd once commanded boardrooms of her own. What do you want to know? Start with how a janitor knows about offshore banking, money laundering, and corporate conspiracy. Most people in finance couldn't spot what you spotted. A sad smile crossed her face. Most people never had to learn the hard way. She walked to the window, overlooking the city. From here, you could see the financial district spreading out like a circuit board, each building a node in the network of power and money that ran the world. 15 years ago, she began, I wasn't cleaning these offices. I was working in one of them. Corner office, secretary, company car. I was Anna Valdez-Chin, senior corporate consultant for Meridian Financial. I felt my assumptions crumble. You were in finance? I specialize in forensic accounting and corporate restructuring, the kind of work that involves finding hidden money and exposing financial fraud. She laughed bitterly. Ironic, isn't it? What happened? Anna turned back to me, and I saw decades of pain in her eyes. I discovered that Meridian was helping their biggest client hide assets from a federal investigation. $2 billion moved through shell companies across 3 countries. When I reported it, they didn't thank me. They destroyed me. She pulled off her cleaning gloves, revealing hands that bore the calluses of hard labor, but also the careful manicured nails of someone who still maintained dignity despite everything. They said I was mentally unstable, that I was fabricating evidence to get attention. They had me committed for a psychiatric evaluation, 72 hours in a facility that felt more like prison than hospital. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the old anger underneath. When I got out, my professional licenses had been revoked. My client recommendations had disappeared. My bank accounts were frozen pending an investigation completely. 15 years of education and experience became worthless overnight. No financial firm would hire me. No consulting agency would take my calls. I went from making $200,000 a year to applying for minimum wage jobs and getting rejected because I was overqualified. I sank into Martinez's leather chair, overwhelmed by the scope of what she was telling me. How did you end up here? Desperation. She picked up her spray bottle and began cleaning Martinez's desk again, but her movements were angry now, aggressive. My sister Maria was diagnosed with lupus around the same time. The treatments cost more than most people make in a year. I needed work, any work, and night cleaning was the only job that didn't require references they could destroy. Your sister, is she why you're working nights? Anna nodded. The insurance from this job barely covers her medications, but it's enough to keep her alive. I watched her work, seeing her with completely new eyes. This wasn't a janitor who'd stumbled onto financial information. This was a former financial expert who'd been relegated to cleaning buildings, but retained all the skills that had made her successful. You've been watching them, I said. All these years, you've been watching the same kind of people who destroyed your life. Once you know how these games are played, you can't stop seeing them. She moved to the filing cabinets, wiping down surfaces that were already spotless. Mr. Patterson, Mr. Martinez, even your friend Leandro, they all have the same patterns. The same tells when they're lying, the same blind spots when they think they're untouchable. And you saw them planning my destruction. I saw them repeating the same playbook they used on me. Create financial pressure, isolate the target from allies, then swoop in with a solution that's really just theft with legal paperwork. She paused in her cleaning. The only difference is they're not trying to silence you. They're trying to own you. What do you mean? Anna walked to Martinez's computer and gestured to the screen. They don't just want your money, Mr. Morrison. They want your company intact. Your client relationships, your technology, your reputation. Everything that took you decades to build. The bankruptcy was never the end goal. It was just a mechanism to transfer everything to them. The realization hit me like ice water. They're not destroying my empire. They're stealing it. And making you grateful for the opportunity to hand it over. Anna's voice carried the bitter wisdom of experience. It's elegant, really. You sign away everything willingly, thinking you're cutting your losses. Meanwhile, they get a $200 million company for the price of some forged documents and bribed officials. I stood up, pacing the window. The city lights blurred as anger and admiration warred in my chest. You figured all this out while emptying trash cans. I figured it out because I empty trash cans. Because people ignore me. Because 15 years ago, I learned exactly how these predators hunt. She joined me at the window. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Looking at Anna's reflection in the glass, I felt ashamed of every assumption I'd made about her. I'd seen the uniform and dismissed the person wearing it. I'd looked at her job title and assumed it defined her worth. How many times had I walked past her in these hallways without acknowledging her existence? "Anna," I said quietly, "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For 15 years of treating you like you were invisible. For assuming that because you cleaned floors, you couldn't understand boardroom politics. For judging your value based on your paycheck instead of your character." She was quiet for a moment. "You weren't worse than anyone else." "That's not good enough." I turned to face her directly. "You have a brilliant mind, incredible skills, and more integrity than everyone upstairs combined. The system that put you here and them there isn't justice. It's just power protecting itself." "Power always protects itself," Anna said. "The question is whether good people are willing to fight back when they have the chance. Do you think society underestimates people based on their jobs?" Standing there with Anna, I realized how completely I'd bought into that prejudice. I'd assumed that intelligence, worth, and capability were reflected in job titles and bank accounts. I'd been so wrong it was embarrassing. "Anna," I said, "I want to offer you something. When this is over, when we expose what they've done and get my company back, I want you to be my head of security and fraud prevention. Full benefits, stock options, the works. Your experience fighting these people makes you exactly what I need." She stared at me for a long moment, then laughed, a sound filled with years of suppressed hope. "You're assuming we're going to win." "We are going to win. Because they made the same mistake with you that I did. They assumed your job defined your capabilities. They never imagined that the person emptying their trash cans was documenting their crimes." Anna walked back to her cart and pulled out a thick folder I hadn't noticed before. Copies of everything. Financial records, email printouts, recorded conversations from when they thought the offices were empty. She handed it to me. 15 years of being invisible taught me that the best investigators are the ones nobody sees coming. I opened the folder and saw months of meticulous documentation. Bank routing numbers, meeting transcripts, photographs of documents they thought were secure. It was enough evidence to not just clear my name, but destroy everyone involved. "This is incredible," I whispered. "This could put them all in prison." "It could. But first, we need to figure out who's really in charge. Because Mr. Patterson, Mr. Martinez, even your ex-girlfriend, they're just employees. Someone else is writing their paychecks." "Any theories?" Anna was quiet for a moment, organizing her supplies with practiced efficiency. "Whoever it is has been planning this for years. They know your business better than you do, know your personal relationships, know exactly which buttons to push to make you react predictably. That's a very small list of people. See, and that's what makes them so dangerous." As I watched Anna work, I realized something profound had shifted in my understanding of the world. For years, I'd equated success with worth, position with intelligence, wealth with wisdom. I'd surrounded myself with people who had the right credentials, the right connections, the right bank accounts. Meanwhile, the person with the most integrity, the sharpest insights, and the greatest courage had been invisible to me, cleaning my floors while I ignored her existence. "Anna," I said as she prepared to move to the next office, "there's something I need to know. Why risk everything to help me? You could have stayed invisible, kept your job, protected your sister. Why expose yourself?" She paused in the doorway, her cleaning cart between us. "Because staying invisible means watching good people get destroyed by bad people, over and over, and never doing anything about it." She met my gaze. "I couldn't save myself 15 years ago. Maybe I can save you." Walking to my car that night, Anna's evidence folder tucked inside my jacket, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Tomorrow night, we would begin gathering the proof we needed to expose a conspiracy. We'd risk everything on the chance that truth and justice still mattered more than money and power. But first, I had to figure out which person I'd trusted completely had been orchestrating my destruction from the beginning. And when I did, they were going to learn that David Morrison wasn't as easy to destroy as they thought. The real war was about to begin. The morning after Anna handed me that folder, I woke up to a storm brewing in my inbox. Emails from Leandro Martinez, even Patterson, all urgent, all demanding an emergency board meeting. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Text from Sophia, too, laced with that fake concern she'd mastered so well. We need to talk, David. Things are getting complicated. Complicated? That was an understatement. I clutched Anna's evidence like a lifeline, hidden in my safe, and headed back to the office, my mind racing. We were so close to exposing them. Just one more night of gathering proof, and we'd have enough to go to the authorities. But as I stepped into the lobby, I felt eyes on me. Security nodded curtly. No friendly chat like usual. Something was off. The boardroom was already packed when I arrived, the air thick with tension. Leandro sat at the head of the table, his usual easy smile replaced by a grim expression. Sophia was there, uninvited, perched in the corner like she still belonged in my life. Martinez paced by the window, legal pads scattered everywhere. Patterson leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, looking smug. And then there was Anna, standing awkwardly by the door, flanked by 2 security guards. Her uniform looked rumpled, her face pale under the harsh lights. She met my eyes for a split second, a silent plea in them, before looking away. "David, glad you could make it," Leandro said, his voice clipped. He gestured to a projector screen flickering to life. "We have a serious problem. Industrial espionage." My stomach dropped. Espionage? I glanced at Anna again, but she stood frozen, hands clasped tight. Leandro clicked through slides, grainy security footage from the executive floor. There she was, Anna, at Martinez's desk late at night, her back to the camera, typing on his computer. Another clip, her slipping documents into her cart. Time stamps matched the night she'd been cleaning. But I knew the truth. She'd been gathering evidence for me. How had they gotten this? "This woman," Leandro continued, pointing at Anna like she was Exhibit A, has been accessing confidential files, emailing sensitive data to unknown recipients. We've traced IP addresses to offshore servers. She's been spying on us for months. Anna's voice broke the silence, steady but edged with fear. "That's not true. I was—" "Save it," Martinez interrupted, slamming a folder down. "We found your notebook in the janitorial closet. Pages of our financial records, meeting notes, even personal emails. You think we're idiots?" The room erupted in murmurs. Jenkins from the bank shook his head. Sarah from accounting whispered something to Patterson, who smirked. I sat there, heart pounding, piecing together. Leandro and Sophia, they must have caught wind of our plan. Maybe Sophia had bugged my phone after our coffee meetup, or Leandro had hacked the security cams. They'd twisted the footage, made Anna's help look like theft. They were framing her to discredit anything she might say. Sophia stood up then, her voice soft but venomous. "David, I hate to say this, but I warned you about getting paranoid. Now we know why things have been falling apart. She's been selling our secrets." Our secrets? As if she hadn't been the one leaking them. I wanted to scream it all, the emails, the betrayals, the whole conspiracy. But the words stuck in my throat. Leandro was my oldest friend. Sophia, despite everything, had been my love. And here, in this room full of suits and stares, fear gripped me. What if I spoke up and they turned the frame on me? Accused me of colluding with her? My company hung by a thread, one wrong move, and I'd lose any chance to fight back legally. "Anna Valdez," Patterson said, standing now, his tone official like a judge passing sentence. "You're fired, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. And expect a visit from the police. Corporate espionage is a felony." The guards moved toward her. Anna didn't resist, but as they grabbed her arms, she looked right at me. "Mr. Morrison, David, tell them the truth." The room went silent, all eyes on me. This was my moment. Stand up for her. Expose the frame job. Fight like she'd fought for me. But loyalty to Leandro, to the life I'd known, clashed with the terror of losing everything. What if they had more footage? What if defending her made me look guilty? My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I just sat there, frozen, watching as they dragged her toward the door. "Traitor," someone muttered. Laughter rippled through the room, cold, mocking. Patterson chuckled. Can you believe it? The janitor thinking she could play in our league. Sophia joined in, her laugh like knives. Pathetic, stealing scraps while we build empires. Anna's shoulders slumped as the humiliation sank in. 15 years of quiet dignity, shattered in seconds. The guard shoved her into the hallway, and I heard her muffled protest. I was helping him. He knows. But I didn't move, didn't speak. The door clicked shut, and the meeting continued as if she'd never existed. Leandro patted my shoulder. Don't worry, Hermano. We'll clean this up, sign the papers, and we can move forward. I nodded numbly, the guilt already churning in my gut. What had I done? By afternoon, the news had spread like wildfire through the building. Whispers in the elevators, snickers in the break room. Did you hear about the cleaning lady? Thought she was a spy thriller hero. Employees I'd led for years now mocked her openly. Someone even posted a meme in the company Slack. A cartoon janitor with binoculars caption, "When the mop lady thinks she's James Bond." Laughter emojis flooded in. I retreated to my office, door locked, staring at my phone. A text from Anna popped up. Why didn't you say anything? I trusted you. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again. Nothing felt right. Instead, I watched from my window as security dumped her belongings into a cardboard box on the sidewalk. Her notebook, our evidence, confiscated. Her uniform stripped away in the HR office, replaced with street clothes that looked too worn for the woman I now knew her to be. The public shaming didn't stop there. By evening, local business blogs picked it up. Tech mogul's janitor caught in espionage scandal. Anonymous sources, Leandro's doing no doubt, painted Anna as a desperate immigrant scheming for quick cash. Comments sections exploded. Deport her. Typical low-wage crook. Morrison's too soft. He should have seen it coming. Anna lost everything that day. Her job, gone. Her reputation, shredded. I learned later that the frame job extended to her personal life. They'd tipped off her sister's health care provider about fraudulent employment, freezing her insurance. Maria's treatments, on hold. Diego's internship offer, revoked. I paced my empty house that night, the silence deafening. The folder she'd given me sat on my desk, useless now without her testimony to back it up. They'd outmaneuvered us perfectly, using my silence as a final nail. Guilt clawed at me, raw, unrelenting. How could I have frozen like that? Me, the man who'd built an empire from nothing, reduced to a coward in the face of old loyalties. Leandro's betrayal stung, but my own weakness burned deeper. I'd let fear of losing my crumbling world stop me from saving hers. Questioning everything now. Was I really the leader I pretended to be? Or just another suit, protecting my own skin? Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I replayed her look in that boardroom. The plea, the betrayal in her eyes when I stayed silent. I'd failed her, just like the system had failed her 15 years ago. And now, with Anna disgraced and isolated, the conspirators were closing in tighter. My time was running out. Would you forgive David? Forgive me for not standing up for Anna in that moment? For letting fear and misplaced loyalty silence the truth when it mattered most? The next day brought no relief. Calls from reporters, more emails demanding I sign the liquidation papers. But underneath the chaos, a fire started building. Guilt was turning to resolve. I couldn't undo what I'd done to Anna, but maybe I could make it right. Maybe it was time to stop freezing and start fighting alone. The real betrayal wasn't just from them. It was from myself. And that realization was about to change everything. The morning after Anna handed me that folder, I woke up to a storm brewing in my inbox. Dozens of emails from Leandro Martinez Patterson, all marked urgent, all summoning me to an emergency board meeting at 10 a.m. sharp. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Text from Sophia, her words dripping with that calculated sweetness. David, we need to talk ASAP. This is serious. Serious? After what she'd admitted at the cafe, everything felt like a threat. I shoved the phone aside and checked Anna's folder again, scanning the copied emails, the photographed documents. It was gold, proof of the money moves, the forgeries. We just needed one more piece. access to Patterson's private server tomorrow night. Then we'd have them. But as I drove to the office, doubt crept in. How had they not noticed Anna's surveillance? She was good, but these people were sharks. Parking in my reserved spot felt wrong now, like stepping into enemy territory. The lobby security guard, usually chatty, just nodded stiffly. "No, good morning, Mr. Morrison." The elevator ride up felt endless, each ding ratcheting my pulse. The boardroom doors were open when I arrived, the room already humming with low voices. Leandro at the head, fiddling with a laptop. Sophia in the corner, uninvited but acting like she owned the place, sipping coffee with that serene smile. Martinez paced, legal briefs in hand. Patterson sat smug, fingers steepled. And there, by the door, flanked by two burly security guards, stood Anna. Her blue uniform hung loose, like she'd lost weight overnight. Her eyes met mine, wide with alarm, but she quickly looked down, hands twisting at her sides. "David, take a seat," Leandro said, his tone all business, no warmth. No hermano this time. He clicked the remote, and the projector whirred to life, casting blue light across the mahogany table. "What's this about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady as I sat. Anna shifted, the guards tightening their grip on her arms. "Espionage," Leandro said flatly. "Corporate theft. We've got proof." The word hit like a gut punch. Slides flashed up, security cam footage, timestamp from the past week. Anna at Martinez's desk, 11:47 p.m., her fingers on the keyboard. Another angle. Her photographing papers with her phone, tucking them into her cleaning cart. A third clip showed her emailing from a company terminal. Zoomed in on the screen, recipient blurb but labeled unknown offshore. Anna's voice cut in, sharp but controlled. "That's not what it looks like. I was investigating." "Quiet," Martinez snapped, tossing a notebook onto the table. It was hers, the one she'd shown me, filled with notes. "We found this in your locker. Detailed records of our finances, private conversations. You've been spying, selling data to competitors." The room buzzed. Jenkins muttered, "Unbelievable." Sarah whispered Patterson, who let out a low chuckle. I knew the truth. Those clips were real, but context twisted. She'd been gathering for me, not against us. Leandro and Sophia. They'd piece us together after my confrontations. Maybe Sophia had planted a tracker during our hug at the cafe. Or Leandro had reviewed cams after I probed him about the Singapore file. Sophia spoke up, her voice honey poison. "David, I tried to warn you. Your paranoia, it's led to this. She's the leak, the reason everything's crumbling." I gripped the table edge, nails digging into wood. This was retaliation, pure and simple. Frame Anna, discredit her, make any evidence she had looked stolen. If I spoke now, revealed our alliance, they'd spin it as me being on it, conspiring with a spy. My company, my life, already on the brink. Loyalty to Leandro tugged at me. We'd built this together. Fear of Sophia's reach paralyzed me further. She knew too much, could destroy what little reputation I had left. Patterson stood, addressing Anna directly. "Ms. Valdez, you're terminated. Security, remove her. We'll be pressing charges for theft and espionage. Expect the police at your door." The guards yanked her arms. Anna stumbled, then steadied, turning to me. "David, please. Tell them why I was really there. Tell them about the conspiracy." All eyes swung to me. The air thickened, expectant. This was it, the payoff moment. Defend her. Expose Leandro's lies, Sophia's betrayal. But the words died. My throat closed. What if they had backup plans? More forged proof against me? Fear won. Loyalty to the past, to friendships now poisoned, kept me silent. I averted my eyes, staring at the table's grain. Laughter broke out. Patterson's barked first. Look at her, begging. The nerve. Sarah snickered. Janitor playing detective. How cute. Sophia joined, her giggle cutting deep. Desperate times, I guess. Mocking herself by thinking she mattered. Anna's face crumpled under the mockery. Dignity stripped, She was marched out, head down. I heard her in the hall. He knows the truth. He'll tell you. But I didn't. The meeting plowed on, discussions of damage control, new security protocols. Leandro slid the liquidation contract my way again. This cleans the slate, David. Sign and we move past this mess. I mumbled agreement. Guilt flooding in like acid. I'd failed her. Word spread fast. By lunch, the office was alive with gossip. In the break room, I overheard. The cleaning lady? Espionage? Hilarious. Someone printed flyers. Caricatures of Anna with a spy hat, posted on bulletin boards. Slack channels blew up with memes. When your mop bucket hides state secrets. Emojis of laughing faces. Thumbs down. Media caught wind by afternoon. Business Insider ran it first. Morrison tech janitor busted in corporate spy scandal. Leaks painted Anna's world collapsed. No job, no severance. Fire for cause. Her sister's insurance lapsed. Treatments halted. Diego's future? Shattered. The internship email rescinded with family concerns. Her landlord, hearing the news, demanded rent up front or eviction. Savings? Meager, gone in weeks. That night, alone in my study, guilt consumed me. Her text haunted. I risked everything for you. Why? I couldn't respond, staring at the empty folder spot. She'd given me everything, and I'd given nothing. Questioning my spine, was I weak? Had success made me soft? Too afraid to lose status? Frozen by old ties, I'd let a hero fall. Would you forgive David for not standing up for Anna in that moment? For letting fear silence him when her life hung in the balance? The guilt fueled a shift. Tomorrow, I'd find a way to make it right. Alone if I had to. The fallout wasn't just hers. It was mine, and it was time to rise from it. The days after Anna's firing blurred into a haze of isolation and regret. I locked myself in my home office. The walls closing like the boardroom had that fateful morning. Her text still glowed on my phone screen. I trusted you. I hadn't replied. Couldn't. Instead, I dove into the digital trenches, hacking away at the remnant of evidence she'd given me. My company's servers, still accessible barely, held fragments I'd overlooked. Late nights turned into early mornings, coffee cups piling up like accusations. I wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating. Guilt was my fuel now. It started with the forged contracts. I pulled up the Singapore deal files again, cross-referencing timestamps with Anna's notes. There, in the metadata, buried deep, alterations made from Leandro's IP address. Not just modifications. Entire clauses inserted post-signature. Penalties inflated. Deadlines shifted to trigger defaults. I zoomed in on the digital signatures. Mine looked legit, but Patterson's? Pixelated edges, like it had been cut and pasted from an old scan. I ran it through forensic software I'd downloaded in desperation. The verdict flashed red. Forgery. My hand shook as I printed it out, adding it to the growing stack on my desk. But that was just a tip. I remembered Anna mentioning secret recordings. Conversations she'd overheard but never captured. Digging deeper into the office cloud storage, I found deleted audio files in the recycle bin. Someone had been sloppy. Restoring them took hours, my heart racing with each progress bar. The first clip played. Leandro's voice, muffled but clear, talking to Martinez late at night. David's too trusting. Will slide the offshore transfers through his blind spots. Sophia's keeping him distracted. Laughter followed, cold and calculated. Another recording. Sophia on speakerphone with Patterson. He's crumbling. Push the audit now and he'll sign anything. Proof. Undeniable. Their voices, their words, sealing their betrayal. I saved copies everywhere. Cloud drives, USBs, even emailed to a burner account. If they came for me, this would survive. The evidence pile grew, a fortress against my doubt. But staring at it all, one face haunted me. Anna's. Her humiliation replayed in my mind. The mockery. The guards dragging her out. I'd stood by, silent. A coward in a suit. Guilt twisted like a knife, sharper with each revelation. These weren't just business moves. They were personal attacks, orchestrated by people I'd loved. And Anna? She'd seen it coming. risked everything to warn me. I owed her more than silence. I owed her justice. Finding her wasn't easy. No company records anymore. She'd been erased. I drove to the building after hours, cornered a sympathetic night guard who'd seen it all. Anna Valdez. I said, slipping him 100. Address? He hesitated, then scribbled it down. A modest apartment complex on the city's edge, the kind with peeling paint and buzzing fluorescents. I parked a block away that evening, rain pattering on my windshield like impatient fingers. What if she slammed the door? What if she called the cops? But guilt propelled me out of the car, up the cracked steps to Unit 2B. I knocked softly, heart thundering. Footsteps inside, then the door creaked open on a chain. Anna's face appeared, guarded, eyes red-rimmed for what looked like recent tears. She wore a simple sweater and jeans, no uniform now, just exhaustion etched into her features. Mr. Morrison. Her voice was flat, a wall between us. What do you want? Anna, please. Can I come in? I need to talk. She eyed me for a long moment, rain dripping from the eaves. Then, with a sigh, she unlatched a chain and stepped aside. The apartment was small, tidy despite everything. Photos on the walls. A young man in a cap and gown, Diego, I assumed. An older woman smiling from a hospital bed. Her sister Maria. The air smelled of rice and spices. A pot simmering on the stove. She gestured to a worn couch, but didn't sit herself. Arms crossed. She stood by the kitchen counter, waiting. I didn't waste time. I'm sorry, Anna, for everything. For freezing in that boardroom. For letting them humiliate you. I was scared, loyal to the wrong people, afraid of losing what little I had left. But that doesn't excuse it. You trusted me, and I failed you. Her expression hardened. Sorry doesn't pay the bills, Mr. Morrison, or fix my sister's treatments. They cut off her insurance because of your company's fraud alert. Diego's internship? Gone. And my reputation. She trailed off, voice cracking. 15 years, and now I'm the thief. The joke. I pulled out the folder. Her original notes, bolstered by my new finds. Laid it on the coffee table like an offering. I've been digging, forged contracts from Leandro's computer, recordings of them plotting. It's all here, proof that exposes him completely. But I can't do this alone. I need you, Anna. Your expertise, your testimony. Together, we can take them down. Get your job back. Clear your name. I'll cover Maria's treatments myself until then. Whatever it takes to make this right. She stared at the folder, unmoving. Rain drummed against the window, filling the silence. Why should I believe you? Last time I helped, you watched them destroy me. Stood there like I was nothing. The word stung, deserved. I met her gaze, letting the shame show. Because I see you now, Anna. Not as a janitor, but as the brilliant woman who outsmarted them all. The one with more courage than I've ever had. I was blind, wrapped up in my world, ignoring yours. But this evidence? It's our weapon. We expose them to the board, the authorities, the press. They framed you to silence us. Let's make them regret it. She paced the window, back to me, shoulders tense. Minutes ticked by, the stove timer beeping softly in the background. I could see the war in her posture, reluctance battling hope. Finally, she turned, eyes fierce but softening. If we do this, it's not just about you getting your company back. It's about justice. For me, for Maria, for Diego, for everyone they've stepped on. Agreed? I said, relief flooding through me. Partners. Equal. She nodded slowly, a reluctant smile breaking through. Okay, but if you freeze again, I'm done. We sat then, spreading the evidence across the table. Hours passed as we pieced it together. Her forensic eye spotting patterns I'd missed, my resources filling in gaps. Laughter crept in unexpectedly, born from shared outrage. Look at this email, she said. Our hands brushed as we sorted papers, a spark of connection in the chaos. As the night deepened, something shifted between us. Not romance, that was too raw, too soon, but a bond, forged in betrayal's fire. She shared more about her fall from Meridian, The nights she cried herself to sleep. I opened up about my divorce, how success had isolated me from real relationships. You've taught me more in days and boardrooms ever did, I admitted. She looked up, eyes warm. And you've given me a chance to fight back. Finally, by dawn, our plan was solid. Infiltrate the office one last time, grab the final server logs, then go public. Walking me to the door, Anna paused. Thank you for coming here. For seeing me. No, I said. Thank you for giving me another shot. Standing in the rain-soaked doorway, watching her silhouette against the warm light inside, I felt the weight lift slightly. Redemption wasn't just about evidence. It was about rebuilding trust. Ours was fragile, but real. And with Anna by my side, the alliance felt unbreakable. Do you believe people deserve a second chance after betraying your trust? I was banking everything on yes, and hoping Anna felt the same. The storm outside raged on, but inside me, purpose burned brighter. Tomorrow we'd strike back. The betrayers had no idea what was coming. The boardroom loomed like a battlefield that morning. The same mahogany table, now a stage for the final act. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, casting long shadows across the polished surface, as if the room itself knew judgment was coming. I'd barely slept, replaying our plan with Anna until dawn. We had the evidence. Forged contracts, secret recordings, even anonymous witnesses from inside the company who come forward after her firing. Tucked in my briefcase, USB drives, printed transcripts, everything to dismantle their empire of lies. Anna waited in the lobby, dressed sharp in a black blazer and slacks. No uniform this time. She looked like the executive she'd once been. Her eyes steady as we rode the elevator up. Ready? I whispered. She nodded. For 15 years overdue. We stepped in early, claiming seats at the far end. The air hummed with the scent of fresh coffee and stale ambition. One by one they arrived. Leandro first, flashing that brotherly grin, but his eyes darted. Nervous? Patterson lumbered in next, barking into his phone about some deal, his suit straining at the seams. Martinez followed, briefcase in hand, all polished calm. And Sophia, slipping in last, her auburn hair perfect, that blue sweater again like a taunt. She caught my eye, offered a pitying smile. The board filled out, Jenkins from the bank, Sarah from accounting, a few investors I'd once called allies. 12 pairs of eyes, same as the day they tried to bury me. Leandro called the meeting to order, tapping his gavel lightly. All right, folks, David requested this emergency session. Says he has new information on the espionage mess. He air-quoted the words, chuckling. The room echoed with smirks. So, Hermano, floor's yours. But make it quick. We've got real business after this. I stood, heart pounding but voice steady. This isn't about espionage. It's about betrayal. Systematic fraud that's been eating my company from the inside. Murmurs rippled. Sophia leaned forward, eyebrow arched. I nodded to Anna, and I didn't uncover alone. She rose beside me, projecting quiet authority. The room shifted, whispers turned into outright scoffs. Patterson barked a laugh. The janitor? You're bringing the fired spy back? This is Rich Morrison. Security. Hold on. I cut in. Anna Valdez isn't a spy. She's a forensic accountant with more credentials than half this table, and she's got proof. Leandro's grin faltered, but he recovered fast. Proof? From the woman we caught red-handed? Come on, David. This is desperate. You're grasping at straws because you can't accept failure. Sophia chimed in, her voice dripping honey disdain. David, sweetie, I get it. The stress is breaking you. But parading her around? It's embarrassing. For all of us. The mockery spread like fire. Sarah snickered. Yeah, what's next? The coffee guy testifying. Jenkins shook his head, muttering about wasting time. Martinez adjusted his tie, smirking. Legally, this is a joke. She's discredited. Anything she says is tainted. Anna didn't flinch. She opened her laptop, connecting to projector with calm precision. The screen flickered to life, displaying the first slide, a timeline of financial transfers. Let's start with facts, she said, her voice clear, cutting through the noise. Exhibit 1. $30 million moved offshore last Tuesday. Not vanished, redirected. To accounts linked to Mr. Patterson's shell companies in the Caymans. Patterson's face reddened. Lies. That's confidential. How did you... Because you left your email open, Anna continued, unfazed. She clicked to the next slide. Screenshot of emails, redacted just enough for clarity. Here, correspondence between Mr. Leandro and Mr. Martinez, discussing how to manage David's suspicions while forging the Singapore contract. Leandro slammed his hand on the table. This is hacked. Illegal. You can't use stolen. Stolen? I interjected. Like the way you stole my company? Keep going, Anna. She advanced to audio clips. The room fell silent as Leandro's voice filled the air. Sophia's keeping him distracted. Push the audit, he'll fold. Gasps erupted. Sophia's composure cracked, her fingers twisting a napkin. That's out of context. Anna pressed on, building the suspense like a master storyteller. Slide after slide. Forged signatures under magnification. Metadata trails showing alterations from insider IPs. And witnesses, she added, queuing up video depositions. Blurry faces, anonymized voices from employees. Sarah's assistant, a junior accountant, who'd seen late-night meetings, overheard bribes. They confirmed the coordination. This wasn't bad luck. It was a heist. The tide turned slow at first. Jenkins leaned forward, brow furrowed. These transfers, they matched the debts that tanked us. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eyes. An investor muttered, If this is true... Leandro exploded, standing so fast his chair toppled. This is bullshit. She's framing us, the real criminal here. He jabbed a finger at Anna. You were mopping floors for a reason, lady. Blacklisted failure, trying to drag us down. Sophia joined the lash out, her voice shrill now. David, how could you believe her over us? Over me? I loved you. Tears welled. Crocodile, I knew. But the room wasn't buying. Martinez tried reason. Admissible? Hardly. We'll sue for defamation. But Anna had the kill shot. She played the final recording. All three, Leandro, Martinez, Sophia, in a hushed call. The client's pleased. Morrison signs tomorrow, and we split the assets. The client, still a shadow, but the conspiracy laid bare. The room erupted against them. Jenkins stood. This is fraud. I'm calling my lawyers. Sarah pushed back from the table. I want no part. Investors dial phones. Faces ashen. Leandro paced wild-eyed. You idiots. He's bluffing. Sophia lunged toward me. Nails out. You ruined everything. I stepped between her and Anna. No, you did. That's when the doors burst open. Two detectives in plain chaos reigned. Leandro resisted, shoving an officer. This is my company. Cuffs clicked. Sophia screamed, mascara streaking. David, please. But her pleas fell flat. Martinez went quietly, head down, muttering about please. Patterson blustered until they read him rights. As they were let out, the boardroom exhaled. Handshakes, apologies to Anna. We had no idea. Jenkins offered her a chair. Investors talked recovery. Assets frozen. Investigations launching. My company, battered but salvageable. Anna and I stood by the window. City sprawling below. She squeezed my arm. Justice. Cathartic didn't cover it. Watching them unravel. Their empires crumble. Years of betrayal paid back in minutes. I felt lighter, reborn. How satisfying was it to see the villains exposed? Rated from 1 to 10 in the comments. For me, it was an 11, but the story wasn't over. One shadow remained, the client pulling strings. Who was it? The answer would shake me deeper than any betrayal yet. The dust from the boardroom showdown settled, but the city outside kept humming, indifferent to the war we'd just won. My office, once a fortress of ambition, felt hollow now, empty without the clatter of keyboards or the buzz of deals. The arrest made headlines. Tech tycoons' inner circle busted for fraud. Leandro, Sophia, Martinez, and Patterson were splashed across every news site, their mugshots a grim trophy of justice. My company was in recovery mode, assets unfrozen, investors rallying to rebuild. But none of it felt like victory. Not yet. One name haunted me. Ana Valdez. The woman who'd risked everything, lost everything, and still stood taller than anyone in that skyscraper. I couldn't shake the image of her in that dingy apartment, her eyes heavy with betrayal. I'd failed her once. Frozen in fear. Now, with the truth exposed, I had a chance to make it right. The morning after the arrests, I drove back to her complex. The cracked steps slicked from an overnight drizzle. My briefcase held more than papers this time. A promise. I knocked on Unit 2B, heart thudding like it had in the boardroom. The door opened, and there she was, no longer in a janitor's uniform but a simple gray sweater, her hair pulled back. She looked wary, arms crossed. "David," she said, voice flat, "didn't expect you back so soon. Can we talk?" I asked, stepping inside when she nodded. The apartment smelled of coffee and fresh bread, a small act of defiance against her unraveling world. Diego's graduation photo still hung on the wall, a reminder of what she'd fought for. I sat on the same worn couch, but this time she sat too, keeping the coffee table between us like a shield. "I owe you more than an apology," I started, setting my briefcase down. "What you did, your courage, your mind, it saved my company. Saved me. And I let you take the fall." Her gaze hardened, but she didn't interrupt. "I'm here to fix that. Starting with this." I slid a folder across the table, embossed with the company logo. Head of Security and Fraud Prevention. Full C-suite position. Stock options. Benefits for you and Maria. It's yours, Anna. Not just because you're qualified. Because you're the only one I trust. She stared at the offer letter, fingers tracing the edge but not opening it. "You think a job undoes what happened? The headlines calling me a thief? My sister's treatment stopped because of your silence." Her words cut deep, deserved. I leaned forward, voice low. "No job can erase that. I know, but I'm trying to rebuild what was broken. Your name, your dignity, it's already being restored." Press release went out this morning. Full disclosure. You were framed, your evidence broke the case. The media's eating it up. Hero Janitor exposes corporate conspiracy. Check your phone. She hesitated, then grabbed her phone from the counter. Her eyes widened as she scrolled. Local woman's evidence topples tech titans. Valdez vindicated. The whistleblower who saved Morrison Tech. A small smile flickered, but it faded fast. Words don't pay for Maria's meds, David. She's out weeks before the lupus flares again. No insurance, no hospital. I took a breath, reaching into my briefcase again. This part I'd kept quiet, even from her. I covered it. Maria's surgery. Scheduled for next week at St. Luke's. Full treatment plan. Paid up front. No strings. I worked it out with the hospital yesterday. They're reinstating her care retroactive. Anna froze, her breath catching. "You paid for it?" "Out of pocket." "For you?" "For her. Because it's right." I met her eyes, letting the sincerity show. "You gave me back my life, Anna. This is the least I owe you." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back, standing to pace the small room. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? You let me sit here," thinking she'd... Her voice broke, and she turned away, shoulders trembling. I wanted to reach out, but I stayed still, giving her space. After a long moment, she faced me again, softer now. "Thank you. For Maria. But trust. It's not rebuilt with a check or a job offer." "I know," I said. "Trust is earned. Let me start by proving it day by day. Work with me, Anna. Not as a janitor. Not as a savior. As a partner." She studied me, the weight of 15 years of betrayal in her gaze. Then, slowly, she picked up the offer letter, flipping it open. A nod. "Okay, but if I'm in, I'm all in. No half measures." "Deal," I said, a grin breaking through. "Partners." That moment marked the beginning of something new, not just for the company, but for us. Over the next weeks, Anna stepped into her role, like she'd never left the C-suite. She restructured our security protocols, trained a team to spot fraud, and worked beside me to rebuild investor trust. Board meetings weren't the same anymore. She commanded the room, her forensic mind slicing through bullshit like a blade. Employees who'd mocked her now nodded with respect. The meme flyers were long gone, replaced by her nameplate on a corner office door. But it was the quiet moments that changed me most. Late nights in the office, sorting through recovery plans. We'd share takeout. Tacos from the truck down the street, her favorite. She'd laugh about Diego's latest coding project, or I'd tell her about Emma's college adventures. Our talks drifted from work to life, from past wounds to cautious hopes. I saw her strength anew. The woman who'd survived Meridian's betrayal, who'd cleaned floors to save her sister, who'd trusted me again despite everything. And I realized I was falling. Not the reckless love I'd felt for Sophia, but something deeper, rooted in truth. One evening, months later, we stood on the office balcony, the city glittering below. The company was stable, profits creeping up, Maria recovering in the hospital. Anna leaned on the railing, wind tugging at her hair. "You know," she said, "I used to think dignity was something you could lose forever, that they'd taken it from me. But standing here with you, I feel it again." I turned to her, heart full. "You gave me something better than money, Anna. Loyalty. The real kind. I spent years chasing wealth. The best," I said, and without thinking, I took her hand. It felt right, steady. "Anna, I don't want this to just be work. I want us, together, for real." Her breath hitched, but she didn't pull away. "You sure you're ready for a partner who sees through every lie?" "I'm counting on it." I laughed. She squeezed my hand, a promise in her grip. "Then let's see where this goes." A year later, we stood in a small garden venue, surrounded by faces that mattered. Emma, radiant as my best woman. Diego, grinning as he adjusted Anna's veil. Maria, healthy and tearful in the front row. The officiant's words faded into background as I looked at Anna, her white dress glowing under the afternoon sun. We'd rebuilt more than a company. We'd built a life. Vows exchanged, we kissed a cheers, her lips warm and certain against mine. The crowd faded, and for a moment it was just us, two people who'd found each other in the ashes of betrayal, walking hand in hand to the reception. I thought about the journey here. The client who'd orchestrated it all? We never found them. A shadow that slipped away. But it didn't matter. We'd won what counted. A life built on truth, loyalty, and love. I used to think wealth was a number in a bank account, a name on a skyscraper. But standing beside Anna, I knew better. True wealth was her courage, Maria's recovery, Diego's future at our company. It was the integrity we'd fought for, the kindness we'd shown, the love we'd earned. What's the one thing in your life that's worth more than money? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you've learned about true wealth. As we danced under string lights, Anna whispered, "Worth the fight?" "Every second," I said, pulling her closer. The music swelled, and the world felt right. We closed one chapter, but our